Hello and welcome to another episode of My Backstage Pass. This is your host, Lee Zimmerman, and I'm here with my producer, co-host, and good buddy, Billy Hubbard. And today we're very excited, very pleased to have Steve Forbert as our guest. Hello, Mr. Forbert. How are things doing?
Good. They're just fine, thank you.
Good. It's a pleasure to speak with you again, Steve. As we were talking before the podcast here, you and I have spoken in the past, and it's great to reconnect. And you have a terrific new album coming out. Daylight Savings Time is coming out shortly, so maybe let's start there. Daylight Savings Time. Are you telling us that Daylight Savings Time is something you look forward to, perhaps? Daylight Savings Time.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not a big lover of the cold of winter.
Yeah.
And once you hit that daylight savings time, you're getting into a good part of the year.
Yes, indeed. Right. So what inspired you to name the album Daylight Savings Time?
Well, a lot of the record has references to summer.
Yes.
And an appreciation of summer, and by the same token, an appreciation of nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get that with daylight savings time, you get that semblance of an extra hour in the day. We know there are only 24 hours in a day, but with the daylight savings time, you've got a make-believe extra hour of daylight.
Yes.
And I love that. And so it's all just a very looking on the bright side of things, and just the comfortable time of summer. And daylight savings time is, like I say, it's a great concept, very positive. On the other hand, the day when it disappears and you're going into winter, that's not such a good day for me. But I love that first day of daylight savings time. This means you can surf for a while, maybe literally some people. But anyway,
right. It's a very dramatic change too, because in the winter it can get dark around 5 o'clock. Whereas in the summer, I'm out walking my dogs, and it's 9 o'clock, and it's still daylight. You know, it gives me extra time to digest everything, take them out. So I hear what you're saying about that.
Yeah, it's even worse in Nashville. You know, they're just barely on the other side of Eastern time. So
that's right. Yeah,
really.
Yeah,
tough.
yeah. We actually we're sort of we're near Knoxville here, so we're on the furthest fringe of Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. So it can mess us up a little bit. So Steve, you have had a terrific, wonderful catalog of albums throughout your career.
Thank you.
Well, it's true, beginning with your earliest albums through Streets of This Town, America and Me, your more recent albums. Well, the basic question is, how do you do it? Where did these songs come from? It's, you have a wonderful muse there that you are able to pursue. So how do you keep consistently reaching this high bar?
Well, I'm glad you think it's a high bar.
I think it is, absolutely.
I'm just doing my best. This is what I set out to do, and I try to write the best songs I can. And I just, it's a cliche thing to say, but I'm just trying to put my best foot forward.
Mm-hmm.
I have to this point been fairly inspired by the realm of pop music and all things related, even if you're getting into old-timey records, and you're doing a study of the anthology of folk music, Harry Smith from 1952 when that set was put out, or if I'm doing a tribute to Jimmy Rogers, who,
Yes.
he died at the age of 35 in 1933. But all of this, I'm saying, it just comes under to this world of music, and I've been inspired by it and continue to be. So that's kind of your answer. It just still works for me.
Mm-hmm. So, well, let's say at this point, you received a Grammy nomination for Best Traditional Folk Album. You have a very, when I say a high bar, it's because you have attained that high bar. You're in the Mississippi Music Hall of Fame. You've had songs that have become standards to many people. It's been a remarkable career, and it's still a remarkable career. A question, though, is when you have a new album, you're sitting down preparing a new release, the fact that you've attained this high bar, is it ever like, auspicious? Well, this album really was a high mark for me. I've got to reach that same level. Or does the past haunt you in any way? I guess that's the question,
Honestly, the first two records were the most well received, and they were both very good records. And Alive on Arrival remains a special record for me because it captured that autobiographical time. Excuse me, when I was leaving Meridian, Mississippi, and getting used to New York City, and still writing a record about that experience. So that was a special record. And of course, Jackrabbit Slim was the most commercially successful simply because of Romeo's tune, which gave it all that exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So those are always going to be, I don't know if I'll ever hit that level of popularity and buzz, if you will, again. But there's always a comparison to that. Some of the records you mentioned, I'm very proud of, and I just still try to do my best. I'm just trying to say, what will the reception be? Well, I have to have a reasonable, expectation at age 69 for this record, which, yes, is called Daylight Savings Time. You can see that has a little bit of an allusion to getting older. And that extra hour of daylight is it's good at age 69. It's really good.
Yeah.
So
we all want extra time. Yeah.
Exactly, guys. Exactly. So that's a little bit of a part of it. But I hope I've answered your question.
Yes.
I'm not bothered by, I can't top the success of Jackrabbit Slim. I'm just, why bother? That hasn't been a problem for 35 years since then, or whatever it is. So I don't know. As long as I believe in the songs, I'll just keep recording them to the best of my ability, and still trying to make the I don't know. Let's just say a record I really have no complaints about, that I live with, and I continue to be happy with it.
Right.
It's a challenge. It's a challenge.
Well, I mean, when I asked that question, I wasn't thinking so much in commercial tunes. I was thinking in terms of your consistency, because consistently made wonderful albums. And I'll tell you this, Steve, when there's an announcement of a new Steve Forbert album coming, me and a lot of people look forward to that. That's something really to look forward to, because we know it's going to be special. And I'm not trying to flatter you, but this new album, is proof of the fact that there's great justification in looking forward to one of your new releases, because you just make wonderful music, and you have done so over the course of your career. So, whatever the secret is, whatever the aspirations are, I think that they come to the fore here, and it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, thank you.
Well, it's the truth. Getting back to the very beginning, of course, and I think you and I have talked about this. You've probably talked about it with a lot of people, but you were given that label. You know what that label was? The New Dylan.
Oh, yeah.
All right. John Prine got it. A few people got it. I would think that when somebody tags you as the New Dylan, that in itself puts a lot of pressure on you too. And it can be kind of like, okay, great, what a compliment. But on the other hand, not so great because it's typecasting you in a way. How did you feel about it? What was it like at the time?
Well, I couldn't just say that it was just ridiculous, because there I was in Greenwich Village
Mm-hmm.
with an acoustic guitar, playing harmonica in a neck brace, writing my own songs. There you go. So I had to say that I could see the superficial similarity thing.
Yeah.
And that a lot of that Greenwich Village myth had drawn me to Greenwich Village. So okay, that would have been in the 60s, of course, when so much was happening there.
Yeah.
So that was part of the attraction to go to Greenwich Village. And then, but I would add that, of course, I didn't think that there was anything literally true to it beyond what I just described. Nobody's going to be the new anybody, but that's the way the press operates, and that's look. I thought that. I thought when I first heard Elton John, I thought he sounded a bit like Jose Feliciano. I mean, it seems strange to me now.
We'll have to think about that one. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way it seemed at the time. Oh, okay. But anyway, to me, Cyndi Lauper was kind of a new Brenda Lee. That's what I was thinking very, very early on, especially when she was in the group Blue Angel and had, if I remember, kind of a whacked out beehive hairdo. But
yes.
But anyway, so I had it in some sort of perspective, I think, and. As time goes by, Bob just gets bigger, and he and more famous, and he's just one for the ages, and you're not going to be that. And I didn't. And back in 1978, I felt the same way.
Right.
It was just. Okay, it was a cliche, and it was a way for people to just say something really quick about where I was generally coming from. So okay, but that's about where it ends. You can't say
Yeah. Well, I think it they were saying that because that was a fantastic record. It's more than just another guy playing acoustic guitar in Greenwich Village with a harmonica. I think that it was meant to denote the quality of what you were doing, and you were new on the scene, and people meant it in a very good way. I mean, I can see how you would get pigeonholed by it, and of course there will never be another Dylan, but at the same time, I think it was a mark of how you really took folks perhaps by surprise, and them thinking, this guy is really special, very special. So I don't know. But I can see how it would be a two-way street here too, a yin and a yang sort of situation with it as well.
Yeah, and I tried to downplay the yang.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I did, but I must say, at the same time, the company was good.
Hmm.
John Prine had been included, and
Sure.
Loudon Wainwright had been mentioned.
That's
I
true
remember
too.
those days, and even Bruce Springsteen had been mentioned.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
So it was a good association in that regard,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because it wasn't. The association, it wasn't a bunch of bullshit.
No,
So
it
the
wasn't.
association was good. Okay.
Yes. Absolutely.
But there was a yin and a yang to it, and it had to be kept in perspective.
Yeah. Understood. So you wrote a memoir a few years ago as well, Big City Cat. You got to sort of
That's right.
share the experience. It's kind of cool. I also read that you do cell phone photography, right?
Right. I did a lot of that a few years ago.
Yeah.
I ultimately, as I think all of us pretty much have had to do, I had to move on to the smartphone because it was just so
Yeah.
it was just so necessary and so convenient and offered so many new things. But for quite a while there, I stuck to an LG brand flip phone, and I liked that. That's been a while. But I was taking pictures. It was as if I was on some sort of drug. I'd never been a photographer before, and now I had this flip phone in my pocket at all times, and I just went crazy with the feature of taking photos.
Yeah. Well,
So I did a lot of that.
I think it's very interesting, though, because having cell phones now, being able to take pictures with cell phones, has turned us all into photographers. We can be at a concert, at an event, and you pull out your phone. Or, God forbid, in a moment of tragedy, you can capture things on your cell phone as well. So it's kind of interesting. I found it kind of interesting that you kind of went into that niche, so to speak, and kind of made it a thing, cell phone photography. You kind of brought it to the fore, kind of interesting. I don't know. I think it is.
Hey, great quality. These phones are amazing, man.
They are. They are.
Well, I was using flip phones, you see. I was using, I had not gone into the smartphone. And I liked the quality of them. I won't go into a lot of detail, but the flip phone, it distorted the colors a bit and hyped them, and it had a certain way that it framed the picture. And I just used that LG phone for years, and I did a couple of gallery shows,
right,
framed up some of these pictures. So I was having a lot of fun with it there for a while. I still take it a couple of pictures a day, pretty much. And it's just such a habit, and I still see things that are beautiful or ironic or funny. So yeah,
that's the beauty of having this device with you constantly. You can pull it out at any time if the the songs kind of feed back into it, and it sort of feeds into the songwriting and all. It's all kind of coming from my own point of view, as a singer-songwriter and as a guy traveling a lot and seeing a lot of different things I might want to take pictures of. Mm-hmm. Well, I want to ask you specifically about the process, the songwriting process, but I think at this juncture, let's play a song from the new album here. Billy, what song do we have?
Yeah, we got one lone leaf pulled up here. So
One Lone Leaf.
Yeah,
okay.
let's give it a spin.
I'm in the moment, I'm in the middle, I'm in the midst of somewhere walking in the woods. I guess I've known it at least a little. This kind of walk out in the woods would do me good. summer, and what's my reason? It ain't for freezing cold and rain and sleet and snow. They're just a bummer, those other seasons. And I'll be sad when I see summer start to go home. One lone leaf came drifting down and found me. One lone leaf is all that's hit the ground. One lone leaf of all these leaves around me. One lone leaf before they all turn brown. You know the drive here could drive you crazy. You know the traffic lights are long, you'll hit them all. When you arrive here, it's loose and lazy, and leaves are green until the fall says they must fall. One lone leaf came drifting down and found.
That's such a terrific song too. I love
cool.
the imagery. I love the imagery that you've captured in that song. And again, it goes back to the theme, so to speak, of the album about summer, and you just capture it brilliantly. So how do you do this, Steve? I mean, you've been, you've had a remarkable discography over the years, and how do you come up with these wonderful, amazing songs? How do you do it? What's the secret? We all want to become successful singer-songwriters here.
Well, I don't know. All I can tell you is I'm working off inspiration, and I'm grateful for continued inspiration. That's the main thing. And then I would add that I don't really force it. I don't have a schedule every day to where I'm working 3 hours in the morning or some sort of regimen. I just kind of work on it as I feel like it, and let it develop itself as it wants to. Okay. So there you go. And you just have to let it come at its own pace.
Steve, that's interesting. I've heard talked to other artists before, and how if you get signed with a publishing, you have to write so much. But I feel like the best songs are the artists that take what they call a creative break, I guess is a term, and I totally agree with what you're saying. So. Yeah. I'll never look at One Lone Leaf again the same now.
Yeah, no. I mean, the imagery, the imagery is just so affecting here. And the other thing, Steve, and it's obvious to all of us who are fans of yours, your vocals are so embracing. You have a vocal style that really connects with the listener. It's so expressive, and that's something again that you've maintained from the start. I guess that also came naturally as well. That Mississippi background. I don't know.
I don't know. I wouldn't say there was anything I was trying to imitate at all.
No.
But this show is easy to be on. You're being very complimentary.
Well, it's true. It's deserved. I'm sorry. You'll have to accept it. I'm sorry. We can't see you. If you're blushing, we don't see it. So go ahead and blush. I don't care. It's all right. But
okay. Well, it's as you see this song, One Lone Leaf, could actually relate to the thing we were saying about the cell phone photos. It could be a photograph of, and I have such photos, but this is just a moment of very simple organic inspiration out in the woods, and one lone leaf came drifting down and found me. And it's sort of like, oh, this could be, this is just a little bit of a foretelling of what we all know is fall is going to inevitably come.
Mm-hmm.
And, in the last verse is, the drive here could drive you crazy.
Yes, I love that.
The traffic lights are long. You'll hit them all.
Yeah, I love that.
When you arrive here, though, it's loose and lazy, and leaves are green until the fall says they must fall. So there's some acceptance in this, and that kind of runs through this record. I'll go and say it is a record about getting older, and with some of the allegories, the images that we've been talking about here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we're all going to be a lone leaf someday. That's good.
Yeah,
Right?
I guess so. Not many people would see a lone leaf falling off a tree and be able to make such a beautiful song out of it, or even see the makings or the potential of a song from that. And that just, again, I'm going to compliment you again, Mr. Forbert. You just have this really wonderful ability to shape music in such a way that it really becomes your own. You are like no one else, and no one else is like you, and that's what makes you such a treasure. I don't care if you're blushing. I really don't care, but it's the truth, And you have some wonderful people on the album too. You have Gurf Morlick's on the album. You have Brian House. You have Aaron Comas playing drums. You have a really terrific cast of musicians with you here. And was this recorded in New Jersey or in Nashville, or where was this album recorded?
The record was recorded in Asbury Park.
Okay.
Steve Greenwell is a producer.
Mm-hmm.
He produced the previous record, which was called Moving Through America, and he produced the previous one, which was a cover record called Early Morning Rain. And so to answer your question, these players are the rhythm section, people I've worked with before, Rob Cloris on keys and Aaron Comas on drums. And we brought in Byron House, who played bass, and Gurf Morlick played lead guitar. But we recorded the basic framework of this record at Steve Greenwell's place in Asbury Park, and he's the engineer, and he mixed the record, and he's the producer, so he knows this record as well as I do, if not better, other than the writing of the songs, of course. So the answer is Asbury Park, and then we went long distance with a couple of the players. We know Aaron Comas and we know Rob Cloris, and they were able to visit the studio for a couple of days and do all this. But Gurf Morlick I know and trust, and he did these things at his home, which is out in Texas. And Steve had gone down to work with Gavin DeGraw in Nashville, and that's where he heard Byron House, and he came back and told me this bass player in Nashville is fantastic.
Wow.
And I took his word on that, and we were not I was not disappointed. So Byron House did his work, and we didn't have to tell him anything. He knew what to go with, and he only asked if there were any things we thought should be an upright bass as opposed to electric bass.
Gotcha.
But we made a couple of suggestions like that. So that's the team that made the record.
Well, the arrangements are obviously superior, but again, the songs and your vocals, it's just a wonderful meld all together. It's a wonderful blend entirely, and another wonderful Steve Forbert album here, which I think is coming out, August 16th is the release date. Is that correct? August 16th.
Well, let me be clear on that.
Okay, please.
Because of some of the basic retail elements of lining up the outlets to make this record available in the retail world, and I'll go ahead and say it, Amazon and
Yes.
all of those digital service providers
Right.
too, and Spotify and such. We've had to move the street date. Okay, the street date is now not until September the 20th, but I will have the records myself, and I'll be selling them on my website
Okay.
with the date you just mentioned. So August 16th is correct. If you want the record, you can get it from me on the website or at my shows. And then the so-called street date, when all these other things come into play, won't be until September the 20th.
Gotcha.
And hopefully radio will start playing it somewhere in there and play it and play it often.
Yes.
But
Yes.
so
indeed.
I'm glad you mentioned it. That's the real date is for me is August 16th.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
people need to go to your website anyway because you have a lot of exclusive live albums that can only be found on your website. So fans of Steve Forbert need to discover this treasure trove of music that can be found on your website because you really have a whole cottage industry going there with these amazing essential exclusive live records as well. You still have a pretty good stock of those, do you not? The live things.
Yeah, that stuff is a lot of fun. It's good to have these outlets. Not everything is going to be pressed up on vinyl, but it's good to be able to make things available to interested people. And sometimes we have a show that I think came off really good, and we have a good sounding tape of it, and I'll put it out there.
Yeah, it's a great thing to have there. And give folks your website here so that they can take advantage of that. What is your website?
Well, it's what you think. It's steveforbert.com, and there's also Facebook and Instagram. And
okay.
So you have just what you would expect.
Sure.
Yeah,
Excellent.
We'll put it in the show notes. It's spelled Forbert. Yeah, Steve
Forbert.
Okay.
Yeah,
Forbert.
so we'll definitely tag that. Well, Steve, it's been a delight speaking to you as always. We hope to see you out here on tour. You mentioned that you're going to be doing some shows in the near future. Where are you going to be? Just give us a little hint of where you'll be performing in the near future here.
The next thing we have is a suburb of Philadelphia, which is called Bryn Mawr. That's going to be Friday. Yeah, Bryn Mawr. It's called the Twilight Concert Series. That's going to be Friday, August the 2nd.
Okay.
And I'm going up to Ottawa and Toronto soon, and that's going to include Buffalo. And I'm going to go to the Midwest in a few months, and that's going to include Indianapolis, and it's going to include good old place called Fitzgerald's down there in Berwyn, Illinois, south of Chicago, at the south end of Chicago. And I'm going to be doing a couple of them. I'm going to do the XPN live lunch. That's going to be Friday, August the 23rd. That's going to happen. I'm going to take my band, which is called the New Renditions, down to Philadelphia to the World Cafe Live. Everybody join us. It's a free lunchtime concert.
Mm-hmm.
And those are some of the things that are coming up. I'm going to do, I think, 4 in a row, starting with Asheville, North Carolina, and going to Atlanta and Auburn, Alabama, and then back to Nashville. That's all coming up in September. So those are some of the planned things.
I'm so impressed the way you have all this on the tip of your tongue. You've got it all down. You're very professional, Mr. Steve Forbert. Very professional. We Billy and I aspire to that level of professionalism too.
Yeah.
We try. Well, again,
well, I thank you both. This has been most enjoyable and very complimentary for me.
I'm
so
sorry. It's the way it is, buddy. I'm a fan.
Hey, it's a treat for us, man.
Yeah, it is. Steve, just stick around for half a minute. Billy's going to sign us off, and then we'll say our goodbyes
we'll do an outro.
off air.
your
Yeah.
outro here. But
Okay, sure enough. Okay.
yeah, big thanks to Steve Forbert, man. Very cool. And our host, Lee Zimmerman. Of course, Lee's author and a music journalist, and he's got a new book out, his second book out, 30 Years Behind the Glass by Jim Gaines, now available on Amazon. Also, please like, share, and subscribe to my Backstage Pass on your favorite platform, and we'll see y'all next time. Happy trails.
And adios.